You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Well, everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Everyone, hit the thumbs up button. And if you're on Patreon watching this, you're getting it real fast, man. I'm telling you what. We've got exciting, interesting, fascinating, scary, right? When I say exciting, I don't mean that in a good way, right? Stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine. Putin, well, he sent in the troops. Why? Because he now recognizes some breakaway republics, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. Do we choose the side of the U.S. government because that's the federal government closest to us? What do we see? I mean, it has hit the fan, and now world leaders have ordered this to happen. Let me start by saying this, though. We have been predicting that Putin was going to make Biden, Kamala, the United States, the West look stupid. And once again, he has succeeded in doing that, in playing as chess master this political military game better than the West could. And clearly, in my opinion, it makes sense because we're very close to Russia itself. You're playing near their home, so they have distinct advantages. So Putin has done this, right? He's sent in peacekeeping operations into breakaway regions. You see, Putin has basically said he recognizes the breakaway regions as independent. He signed a decree stating that. And then he's ordering peacekeeping troops into the area. Now, why is this happening? Well, let me see if I can lay this out. Putin says Ukraine, the country of Ukraine, has not been able to achieve stable statehood and has therefore had to rely on foreign countries like the United States. Putin said Ukraine has become a colony with a puppet government. Hard to argue with that. Putin says Ukraine is planning to create its own nuclear weapons. I don't know if that's true or not, but didn't the United States say that weapons of mass destruction are a problem in the world and we need to make sure we keep that to a minimum? Putin says that NATO expansion is not a good idea, right? That he doesn't like that it's not good for Russian security. And he asked the U.S., he asked Clinton, how would Clinton feel if Russia was joining NATO? And of course, you're told that, NATO doesn't need a country like Russia in it. Putin says Russia has every right to protect its security, right? And he's saying that Ukraine, the country of Ukraine, didn't want a peaceful resolution. And Russia is going to take steps to secure its security and recognize the independence of these other countries. Now, why are the people in Ukraine fighting? I think this is important to understand. Ukraine has not been an independent country of Russia or the Soviet Union. Russian history of the area, ancient Russian history, it is a complete mess. The same way we described yesterday that Europe and its political boundaries and the names of countries have changed significantly in just the last 100 years. Not ancient lines and ancient territories and ancient kingdoms and fiefdoms. No, just even recently it's changed. So this claim that Ukraine is its own country and always has been is rather spurious, if not ridiculous. So why are people in this area known as Ukraine, this country, modern country of Ukraine, why are they fighting? Well, they have strong memories, folks. And they aren't ancient memories, they're rather recent. The communist murder of starving millions of people who live in what is now Ukraine still is there. And government corruption today is helping remind them of government corruption 100 years ago under communist control, right? There was something called the Holodomor, also known as terror famine or the Great Famine. And there was a famine in the Soviet Union, right, under which at this time, Ukraine was part of it, from 1932 to 1933, killed millions. It was a larger part of a wider Soviet famine. But in this area, it was just as bad or especially bad. The term Holodomor emphasizes the famine's man-made and intentional aspects. And outside aid was rejected by the corrupt communist regime, confiscation of all household food, right? That's right. Every house had to give up its food. Restriction of movement, travel. Once again, folks, I'm seeing similarities to what's going on in the world now. There is man-made famine. They're withholding nutrients or fertilizer. They're not planting crops. They're killing livestock. Man-made shortages. Restricted movement, restricted population movement, restricted trade. Aren't we seeing that now? You can't go anywhere. You have to stay locked down. We're seeing a lot of interesting similarities. So the Ukraine people, they've already lived this. They understand that they've had enough of it, right? The Ukraine government is massively corrupt, and it allowed Obama-Biden, that regime, to install Hunter Biden in positions of power to oversee their cut, right, of the wealth through this process. And Putin and Russia have had enough of this, right? Those who object to the West's interference with Russia, right, the non-communist modern nation, as an ally, not the banking energy cartels, right? This is the fast version, folks, of what's going on. We don't have hours to talk about this because it is very much changing. It's very fluid. Why we're here today? Russia is recognizing breakaway territories as self-governing, and he's sending in his protective military, i.e. peacekeeping force. Right? Putin has stated the Ukraine government has had well over 5 years to live up to its obligations under treaties and fix their problems, which they haven't, and take care of the corruption and theft. Well, they've failed. And that is why Putin is taking this action, recognizing some breakaway territories, recognizing them as legitimate, sending in his peacekeeping force, because he sees NATO, the UK, and the US as doing nothing more than pushing their military closer to Russia and maintaining their corrupt hold on the Ukraine government. Now, to demonstrate how the Russia-Putin move could be viewed as legitimate, we need to create a scenario here in North America and compare perspective. If China were to be in Mexico, folks, creating chaos, instability, and using its political leadership, right, to create profits for itself, massive profits at the expense of the people, would we expect the US government to be happy about that? Would we as Americans be happy about China down there, right? Then if China said it was bringing in its military and nuclear missiles into Mexico to guarantee its hold there, would we, the people, and the US government be happy about that, right? And if Mexican territories said that after a decade of trying to correct this problem with China in there, and if it showed no improvement under treaties where it promised it would fix the China problem and fix all the other corruption, would the US government recognize that areas of Mexico wanted to separate from Mexico, develop an independent state, and have an allied relationship with the United States? Would we approve of them and then move our military into the neo-Mexican areas? Well, here we are. Russia doesn't like NATO and the US promising to move its military in right up on its border challenging its security with its size and strength. The US would not like China or Russia, for that matter. Instead of using China, use Russia. Would the United States government like Russia moving into Mexico, taking over its economy, strangling it, benefiting and profiting by it, causing chaos, economic chaos, social chaos within Mexico? I don't think the US would like that at all. Certainly, we, the American people, wouldn't like knowing that Russia has moved its military into Mexico. And we wouldn't like it if Russia had its nuclear missiles brought in to Mexico. We wouldn't like any of that. So that's what Russia is looking at. And it wants stability in its own country and around its country. It does not want its opponents, I'm going to use the term opponents, so close. Just as we wouldn't want a major opponent on our southern border or our northern border. So it's hypocritical, right, to make these claims that the US makes as it is expanding its chaotic control techniques into Ukraine. Sadly, Ukraine hasn't cleaned its act up. Sadly, Ukraine has remained corrupt, along with a lot of the rest of the world, folks. I make no illusions about that. But what is going on right now is Russia is defending itself, right? It believes it. That's its position. So yeah, he's recognizing the breakaway Donetsk and Lugansk regions as independent. He signed a decree. He's ordering his peacekeeping troops into the area to protect those areas from Ukraine aggression. Now, Biden and the West, NATO, have been outplayed. Will we go to war over this? Can Europe afford to tell Russia, you're bad? We're going to sanction you. We're going to threaten to invade you. Russia will just cut off oil, gas, energy, uranium. They'll cut it off. The West can't afford that. They've been outplayed and outmaneuvered again by the chess master, Putin. For the West, for us in the United States and Europe, this is going to cause problems, right? We don't really have leadership. We have corrupt people enriching themselves and trying to expand their control over the world. Folks, this is the world of today. It has hit the fan. And domestically, they're trying to lock us down because of a flu, a bug, a cold, illness. They're trying to use that. They're trying to use a fake demic to keep control over us. Right? I'm going to have more to talk about, folks. More to talk about with regard to what do we do? What do we think? What's going to happen? Canada is a big deal right now. Our trucker convoy in the US is a big deal right now. Of course, Russia, Ukraine, NATO, big problem. We got big problems everywhere on every level. Are you prepared, folks? Do you see the similarities between an oppressive regime starving its own people in Soviet Union, Russia, Ukraine? Do you see similarities here to the United States, Canada, and the West, where they're plowing under crops, where they're killing livestock, where they're claiming they can't process food? Why? Why do this to us? It becomes apparent, it becomes obvious when you look at a out of control government and its desire to control its people by any and all means, up to and including removing the threat those people represent by eliminating massive swaths of the population. Scary times indeed. Hey, chance favors the prepared mind. It is yours. I'll see you next time.